Have you ever stopped to think about what happens to your body when you ejaculate every day? Is it really harmless? What if I told you that this seemingly natural habit could actually be draining your energy, affecting your testosterone levels, and even the strength of your erections? The pleasure that should be a sign of health can silently turn into a cycle of exhaustion. The penis, the erection, the desire. All of it depends on a delicate hormonal balance. And when that balance is broken, the body starts sending signals that most men simply ignore. During sex or masturbation, the brain releases a powerful mix of hormones: dopamine, prolactin, oxytocin, and testosterone. It's like a chemical show that makes you feel pleasure, relaxation, and satisfaction. But what most people don't know is that this show comes at a cost. After each ejaculation, there is a natural drop in testosterone levels and a rise in prolactin, the hormone responsible for the feeling of satiety and relaxation. This combination makes the body shut down for a while, reducing desire and even vitality. When this happens occasionally, it's healthy. But when it becomes a daily routine, the body doesn't have time to recover, and the hormonal system begins to wear out. As days go by, the man who ejaculates constantly starts noticing small changes: less firm erections, fatigue, difficulty concentrating, and a libido that seems to weaken. The penis doesn't respond like it used to. The mind loses its enthusiasm, and pleasure becomes faster, shallower, and less satisfying. It's a vicious cycle. The more the body seeks that instant release, the more the brain depends on it to feel good. At this point, pleasure stops being natural and becomes dependency. I'm Dr. Emily Collins, a urologist, and I want you to understand something very important. Sex itself isn't the problem. Excess is. The male body was designed to desire, but also to recover. And if you don't respect that recovery time, the entire system goes off balance. Testosterone, the fuel of virility, begins to drop gradually, and with it comes fatigue, loss of energy, and a lack of interest in what once turned you on. Now stop and think. How many times a week do you ejaculate without even realizing why? Is it real pleasure or just habit? In the next few minutes, I'll explain what happens inside your body. Scientifically, but in simple terms, and how excessive frequency might be undermining your strength, your vitality, and even your confidence. But before we continue, make sure you resubscribed to the channel so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos about us sexual health. And tell me in the comments, have you ever felt your erection weaken after a period of excess? I'd love to know what you think about it. To understand how excessive ejaculation can affect your vitality, you first need to understand who the real protagonist of this story is: testosterone. This hormone is the engine of masculinity. It influences desire, erection, muscle strength, energy, mood, and even the way you see the world. When it's balanced, everything seems to work better. But when its levels drop, the body begins to lose its spark, the penis responds with less intensity, the mind feels more tired, and pleasure feels empty. Testosterone is mainly produced in the testicles under the brain's command. It's a fascinating cycle. The hypothalamus sends a signal to the pituitary gland, which stimulates the testicles to produce the hormone. This process doesn't happen in a constant linear way. The body regulates it as needed, and that balance is sensitive to everything: sleep, diet, stress, and yes, sexual frequency. During ejaculation, a cascade of chemical reactions occurs that temporarily reduces testosterone production. This isn't a problem when it happens occasionally, because the body compensates quickly. The problem begins when the stimulus is constant and the body doesn't have time to recalibrate the system. Think of testosterone as a reservoir of vital energy. Each frequent sexual release drains a bit of that reserve, and if there's no time to recharge, the tank starts running low. You may not notice it right away, but the signs appear gradually: less energy, poor sleep, irritability, and most importantly, a decrease in erection quality. The penis depends on hormonal balance to maintain ideal blood flow and sensitivity. When testosterone drops, erectile response drops too. It's a direct relationship. Low testosterone levels also affect the brain. Dopamine, the neurotransmitter of pleasure, becomes unbalanced, and desire starts depending more and more on intense stimuli. That's why many men say they need more porn, more fantasy, more intensity to get aroused. The body isn't addicted to pleasure. The brain is trying to compensate for the hormonal deficit. But here's the interesting part. The body also has the ability to restore this balance. When you learn to control your impulses, sleep better, eat well, and allow recovery periods between ejaculations, testosterone rises naturally again. The body starts rewarding you with energy, firmer erections, and a steadier desire. However, the secret lies in understanding the line between healthy pleasure and excess. And that's what we were going to explore next. What really happens inside your body when ejaculation becomes a daily habit, and how that affects your strength and your mind. Every time a man ejaculates, a complex and fascinating sequence unfolds within the body. The brain, hormones, and reproductive systems synchronize to create an intense, but temporary, experience. During orgasm, the brain releases a surge of dopamine, the reward hormone. It makes you feel pleasure, euphoria, and satisfaction. Right after that, prolactin is released to end the arousal cycle. That's why after ejaculation, the body enters a deep relaxation state and desire momentarily drops. This mechanism is natural and healthy, but when repeated excessively, it disrupts hormonal balance. Now imagine this process happening every day or several times a day. The body starts living in a constant cycle of hormonal highs and lows. Dopamine spikes quickly and then crashes, leaving the brain increasingly dependent on that release to feel good. It's as if pleasure turns into a chemical need. Meanwhile, prolactin stays elevated for longer, directly affecting testosterone production. The result? Less energy, less desire, and weaker erections. This pattern also affects penile sensitivity. Over time, the nerve receptors become less responsive to natural stimulation, and pleasure begins to feel muted. Many men describe it as if the body responds, but the mind doesn't follow. That disconnection is a sign that the system is overloaded. Pleasure has turned into routine, and routine is the opposite of arousal. From a physiological perspective, frequent ejaculation demands constant effort from the body. Semen is made of proteins, minerals, and hormones that need to be replenished. When production is forced too often, the body diverts energy from other processes, including hormonal regulation, to keep up. And here lies the most subtle but dangerous impact: hormonal fatigue. The body switches to energy-saving mode, prioritizing basic functions and neglecting ideal sexual balance. Perhaps the most concerning effect happens in the brain. Dopamine, which once reacted strongly to real stimuli, starts requiring higher doses of excitement. This creates a kind of pleasure tolerance. A man needs more visual stimulation, more intensity, more frequency. And the more he chases it, the less real pleasure he feels. It's a vicious cycle that drains both energy and vitality. Now that you understand the physical effects, let us look at the most invisible, and perhaps most dangerous, part of this process: psychological addiction. What happens when pleasure stops being a choice and becomes dependence? That's what I'll explain next. What many men don't realize is that addiction to frequent ejaculation isn't just physical. It's mental. The brain is a reward machine, and when it finds an easy path to release dopamine, it wants to repeat it. Every time you masturbate or have sex just for quick relief, the brain records it as a shortcut to pleasure. Over time, it demands that reward more frequently, and the body adapts to that pattern. Pleasure stops being natural and becomes a constant need. This is where the cycle of dependency begins. Dopamine, which should be linked to motivation, achievement, and genuine pleasure, starts being used in an immediate and artificial way. The brain loses sensitivity, and pleasure, paradoxically, begins to fade. What used to feel intense now feels dull, and the man feels he needs more stimulation, more porn, more fantasy to reach the same level of satisfaction. It's a chemical trap. The more you chase pleasure, the less capable your body is of feeling it. Over time, this affects not just sexual desire, but also mood, energy, and confidence. Excessive masturbation and daily ejaculation make the brain believe that pleasure is easy, predictable, and instant. And when something becomes too easy, it loses its value. That's why many men report feeling empty right after orgasm, even though moments before they were consumed by desire. Pleasure no longer comes from connection, it comes from release, and every release has a cost. This cycle also interferes with relationships. When the brain is conditioned to quick reward, a man loses interest in real stimuli. Touch, smell, eye contact. Everything that once sparked desire starts to feel weak. It's as if the body still wants, but the mind is numb. This is the beginning of a dysfunction that has nothing to do with physical impotence, and everything to do with mental saturation. But the good news is that the brain has plasticity. It can be retrained. When you learn to space out your ejaculations and control your impulses, the dopaminergic system resets, sensitivity returns, pleasure becomes deeper, and connection with your partner becomes more genuine. Retention isn't punishment, it's awareness training. However, before seeking balance, it's important to recognize the point when the body begins to show the clearest signs of sexual fatigue, the moment when the penis literally starts to respond less. That's what I'll explain next, because sexual exhaustion is real, and it might be happening to you without you realizing it. After a long period of frequent ejaculation, the body enters a state of exhaustion that few men recognize right away. The penis starts showing subtle signs of fatigue, weaker, shorter erections, a different sensitivity. The mind wants, but the body doesn't follow. This doesn't mean impotence. It means sexual fatigue. It's as if the reproductive system were saying, I need time to recover. And it truly does. Each ejaculation requires significant physical and hormonal effort. There are muscle contractions, energy expenditure, neurotransmitter releases, and hormonal fluctuations. The body needs time to restore this chemistry. When ejaculation becomes daily, the body can't replenish everything at the same rate. The result is a drop in sexual performance and overall vitality. The penis still works, but the fuel starts to run low. Testosterone, essential for erection and desire, begins to decline gradually. The body, trying to protect itself from overuse, temporarily lowers production to save energy. This creates a domino effect. Less testosterone means less desire, less rigidity, and less pleasure. It's a self-sustaining cycle of imbalance. The man feels less potent, tries to compensate by ejaculating again to test himself, and ends up making it worse. The brain, already conditioned to quick dopamine hits, associates pleasure with minimal effort. This reduces the natural response to physical and emotional stimulation. That's why many men say arousal feels in the mind, but not in the body. The penis takes longer to react, erections don't last, and pleasure is brief. This disconnection between mind and body is the classic symptom of sexual fatigue. The autonomic nervous system, responsible for involuntary erections, also suffers. The overload of constant stimulation desensitizes the neural pathways that control the penis. That's why many men stop having morning or spontaneous erections. The body is simply trying to conserve energy, but this condition isn't irreversible. Like any overloaded system, the male body can regenerate when given proper rest. Reducing ejaculation frequency, sleeping well, eating right, and avoiding excessive porn consumption are simple steps that help restore balance. In just a few days of rest, the brain recalibrates dopamine, blood circulation improves, and the penis regains its natural vitality. And that's exactly what I want to show you next. How to regain your strength and restore your hormonal balance intelligently, without extremes, and with real results. Because understanding your body is the first step toward taking control again. The good news is that the male body has an incredible ability to regenerate, as long as you allow it. The first step to restoring hormonal balance and natural strength is to understand that the penis and the mind are part of the same system. What you feel sexually is a direct reflection of how you live. Sleep, diet, stress, routine, and sexual frequency all work together. If one fails, they all suffer. The body needs time to recalibrate. When you give yourself a few days of rest between ejaculations, the system begins to restore dopamine balance and normalize testosterone levels. This happens because the brain stops depending on quick release and starts responding again to real stimuli: touch, emotion, connection. This pause allows the testicles to produce testosterone naturally, without constant disruption from high prolactin levels. In a short time, desire returns stronger, and erections become firmer and longer lasting. Sleep is another key factor. Most testosterone is produced during deep sleep, especially in the early hours of the night. Poor sleep is like draining your virility fuel. That's why many men who complain about low libido or weak erections are actually just exhausted. Prioritizing rest is as important as any supplement or exercise. Diet also plays a decisive role. Healthy fats, like those from avocados, olive oil, and fish, help the body produce hormones. Minerals like zinc and magnesium are crucial for testosterone synthesis and sperm quality. And of course, avoiding excess alcohol and sugar is essential, since both sabotage hormonal balance and reduce the penis's sensitivity to natural stimulation. Perhaps the most important point is stress control. Cortisol, the stress hormone, when released in excess, directly blocks testosterone production. Meditation, exercise, and genuine moments of pleasure help reduce that interference. The male body wasn't made to live in constant alert mode. Relaxing is also a form of strength. And finally, change your relationship with pleasure. Masturbation isn't the enemy, and ejaculation isn't a sin. The issue lies in frequency and intention. When pleasure is experienced consciously, the body finds the right rhythm between desire and recovery. That's the moment when a man starts feeling in control again, strong and balanced. Now that you understand how to regain your natural power, it's time to take the next step. Let's talk about how to turn this knowledge into real strength. The balance between desire, awareness, and vitality. That's what I want to show you in the final part of this video. After understanding everything your body can do and what it loses when you overload it, it becomes clear that potency isn't the same as frequency. True masculine power isn't about how many times you ejaculate, but how much control you have over your desire. Being virile doesn't mean being tireless, it means being conscious. The penis, the erection, the pleasure, they all respond to how you relate to yourself. When you learn to respect your body's rhythm, it rewards you with energy, firmness, and balance. Testosterone isn't just a hormone, it's the reflection of your vitality. And vitality doesn't come from excess, it comes from care. Sleeping well, eating mindfully, exercising, and living pleasure and balance are the real keys to keeping the fire alive without burning out. The body doesn't want total abstinence, it wants harmony. Every man has his own rhythm, and learning to listen to it is what separates impulse from wisdom. I'm Dr. Emily Collins, urologist, and I see this every day. Men who come to my office exhausted, worried, thinking they've become weak, when in fact they're just disconnected from themselves. When they learn to take breaks, respect their bodies, and reduce excessive stimulation, everything changes. Erections return, desire reappears, and pleasure becomes deeper. The body responds when treated with balance, and that is the takeaway I want you to have from this video. Self-control isn't deprivation, it's power. When you choose the right moment to release, When you understand that pleasure and rest go hand in hand, you become the master of your own energy. And that awareness is what separates the man who lives at the mercy of impulse from the one who commands his own virility. If you've made it this far, congratulations. That already shows you're seeking knowledge and growth. So take a moment now. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, because here we talk about men's sexuality without taboo, with science and respect. Leave a like if this video made you think differently, and tell me in the comments, do you believe balance is the secret to potency? I want to hear your opinion. And of course, if you stayed until the end, watch the next video appearing on your screen right now. There, I explain what really happens when you go a few days without ejaculating, and why your body reacts so intensely. The journey towards sexual self-awareness is just beginning, and the next step is only a click away.